Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to this week's Killer Innovation Show. We have a great guest this week. This is the second in a series of interviews that I did when I was at the Tech-Expo Show a few weeks back in Philadelphia. So, today's guest is Ariesen. He is the CTO of Technetix. Technetix, if you're not familiar with it, is a smaller company, about 200 employees in the broadband industry. We talked about a wide range of topics. We started off talking about the fact that we were at this show, which both of us had been at before, noticing how many people changed their titles, roles, companies they worked for throughout the midst of COVID. But we then dove in on how do smaller organizations, Technetix is a total of 200 employees, how do they prioritize innovation when you are of a smaller size? How do you balance those resources? We also talked about experimenting through failure. Failure is not a negative. Failure is education. And how do you do that? Again, in a smaller organization, what does that mean? We also talked about comparing complex innovations versus simple innovations and how, in most cases, simplicity wins. And we talked about a wide range of areas about decision making and make decisions. Don't wait. Move forward. I think you really are going to enjoy this week's episode. But before we hop in, I got that favor to ask. Follow, like, and share. Follow us on social media. Like this episode so others can find it. Post a review. Give us a score. Wherever you get your podcast, hop back over. I know it's a pain. I'm asking this as a favor. Hop over. Give us a rating so that other people can make it easier for them to find the show and benefit from the content that we are producing. And then share it. If there's people within your organization who you think would benefit from listening to this content, share it. Send them the link. Send them the URL for the show notes over at Killer Innovations, or you can send them over to theinnovators.network, where all of my content, but also content from all of the other contributors to the network, where you can get great shows, great information, great content about innovation. And with that, let's hop into this week's episode. So Jan, you've been here at the Tech-Expo Show. How's it going for you guys here at the show?
No, it goes very well. I have to see everybody starts to enjoy again to go to a show. After 3 years, see each other. You can see this is really what we need to show the innovations, and a lot of people really put a lot of effort into it. You can see that. Yeah,
it's interesting. The energy level is surprisingly high. I think the most common comment I've gotten running into people around the show here in Philadelphia has been, "Wow, I'm getting to see you in 3D. It's real. I can, we can shake hands, we can hug." I've done very little fist bumping or elbow bumping. Everybody wants that human touch.
Indeed. Oh, that's indeed. And you see your people that you haven't seen in 3 years' time. And it's good to see that they're all there again, and everybody is just driving it and going forward. Yeah.
What's interesting, I saw this yesterday or the day before, the first day of the show or the pre-show. I ran into a couple of people, same face, same names, different companies. I was amazed. I'm amazed about how many people moved companies during COVID.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's absolutely true. And I also saw a few people said, "Hey, but different shirt, different colors,
different logo, same name on the business card, logo changed."
No,
yeah, it's almost a little bit of a byproduct. I've just started picking up on it, so now I'm trying to keep mentally track of, who has moved around and who hasn't moved around. We were talking before we started recording about the whole area of innovation and the concepts and then the cultures of innovation. How does your organization prioritize and think about innovation? Because it's so important to what you guys do, the value you've been able to create in your products and services. So there's got to be a cultural aspect to it. It's almost got to be like a DNA thing within your organization.
It is. It is exactly it. If you see this, we are a medium-sized company. To be able
how many employees are you guys?
We are about 200 people.
How many?
200.
200. Oh, I'm bigger. I'm bigger than you. I've got 240.
Okay. So as you said, we are a medium-sized company now, and so what we try to do is to do the extra mile. It's very clear. We just want to show them that there is more. It's not just an amplifier or it's not just a splitter, but doing something extra into the products. That just at the end it will just help the operator to have more service for the future. That therefore the lifetime of a product will be longer. Therefore they can use this longer to have the flexibility in the network. So innovation has always been key for us. It's driven by the CEO. He always was. He's always pushing the innovation. And that's also what I think what we have on the show now. We are showing some ideas different than everybody else. And that's why it's just booming. And I'm almost losing my voice already before we had this discussion, because I don't know how many people I already had do presentations for and so on. Because it's amazing.
Well, I know the area around your space here on the show floor has been packed.
Yeah, it's absolutely packed. And we have because everybody, a lot of people on the show are driving that 10 gigabit goal. Right? So everybody wants to go to that part. And there are multiple ways of going there.
Right.
And we always try to find solutions that's not only doing this, it's not only bringing you the 10 gig, but also maybe give you already the next step, or bring you the flexibility that you don't have to do an extra truck roll or whatsoever in the future. And that's the part that we always have been driving, and that's the part that why we already exist for, I think, 33 years now in the cable industry.
Yeah, that's an important part. And I mentioned this a little bit in my my discussions during the opening session, which was around legacy, right? As engineers and companies, we tend to look at what do I need to do to solve today's problem, and sometimes we don't take that extra step to think about I need to solve tomorrow's problem, the problem that maybe the customer hasn't even thought of, or the industry hasn't even thought of. Right? Like preventing a truck roll or enabling a level of automation which saves, downtime from, being longer, and I can diagnose it and fix it and get the network back up, get that customer, back online. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, because you guys have a reputation of thinking the next step, but why do others not think about that? Do you have a thought on that?
No, it's not simple. Right. Let's be honest, it's not simple. A lot of the ideas that we have are failing, and probably and a few of them stick. Right. We tried to develop, for instance, a new style of amplifier, and we had that idea 5 years ago, and it took us 5 years to fix it, because the first 10 ideas we had did fail, and we always thought, it has to be something, it has to be feasible to do this, and at the end we were succeeding in this. And now we have an amplifier. For instance, we are building now amplifiers that can do ESD, the 1.8 gigahertz to drive that part, but also can do full duplex, and we don't use any diplex filters. Therefore, it overlaps the upstream and the downstream. And everybody said that's impossible. That will never work. It was not simple, but we did get there, and we are presenting this now, and we are demoing this on the show, and there's a lot of interest for this because it will save you truck rolls for the future. Right.
So if you're doing one deployment, architecture deployment, and you want to move to another, you don't have to go replace the amplifier.
It's just software.
Right.
And therefore we call it the one-touch approach. So you put it in the network, and if you have 1.2, if you have full duplex, if you have 1.8, if you have medium split, high split, ultra high split, it doesn't matter. It always will work in that scenario, and you don't have to go back to your amplifier again.
Okay, but there's been other attempts at innovation where you try to solve everything into one product. Typically, the downside though is you have to put so much extra into it that the cost becomes prohibitive. Nobody can deploy it because on a per innovation basis. So it's one of those ones where do you feel like you had to drive a more complex solution, or did you come up with a way that solves all of that but keeps a cost model that works?
In fact, it's a simpler solution, but that's, I think, always with innovations at the end. The problem was all difficult.
We sometimes get in the way, and sometimes we overthink it.
Yeah. So and now what we have is that solution, because now you have an analog solution that can do all these things. So in fact, what we do, we replace diplex filter for direct couplers. So in fact, instead of having a frequency location, what goes up and what goes down, it is what comes on the input connector gets gain down, and what comes out on the output connector gets gain up. So we, depending on the direction of the signal, we create the gain. And that way, so at the end, it's very simple. It's just an analog solution. There's no digital, nothing gets involved in this. Oh. So overall, this is not this is not that it drives the cost.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, we were talking about before we started recording about the issue that sometimes, particularly those of us in the tech end of it, we do tend to try to we think clever, and we end up making it a lot more complex. And those are the ideas that typically don't pan out because they're too hard to build, inconsistent,
Yeah. No, but you have to start somewhere, and everywhere where you start, I think, either you win or you learn, and that's the way to go forward.
You either win or you learn. I'm trying to remember who did.
Nelson Mandela said that.
Yeah, Nelson. That's right.
I'm not going to steal his thunder.
I knew. I was trying to remember who made the quote. Yeah, you're right. Either you win or you learn.
Yeah. So
that's it. That is a great quote. I love that quote. So talk a little bit more about the culture within your organization, right? You come up with an idea, you try, but what's the culture of encouraging your thought leaders, your technologists, your engineers, about how do you encourage them to try and come up with the next new thing that you can bring to market?
No, we have a lot of, our organization is based about an R&D department and the CTO team, and we have a lot of meetings and with PM to come up with new ideas and how to do this. One of the biggest encouragement I think we have in the company is that the only thing we really drive is make a decision. That's the only. So if you don't make a decision, you will never know if it is right or wrong. Mm-hmm. Just make a decision, and that is what's driving it. Every plan is okay, and if it is the wrong plan, we start over again and we do that part. And that comes from the top. We drive that from the top. Is that, guys, just go for it and try, and then and we have a very good team. They really complement each other. They really are going. It is really 1 and 1 can be 3 in this situation where we have a mix between digital and RF, etc. guys in the team, and they are. We have a lot of meetings, come up with ideas, try this, try that, and then that's the way to go forward.
Okay. Yeah, I think that brings up an interesting point, right? Because I think a lot of people, they get hung up on the analysis and never make a decision to go go actually try. It's the fear of failure.
Yeah. No, I think if CEO just made an example also in this part. He said, okay, there are if you know 80% what you think it's going to do, just do it, because you will lose so much time try to figure out those last 20%,
right?
That either the situation it's gone, the opportunity is gone, and it will just drive costs. It will just drive all the analysis. On a certain moment, you think this is the right way going forward. You can discuss it with the guys. Say, we all believe in it. Let's do it.
So, it sounds like it's almost driven by also a pace, like the customers are pulling to say, I need more and more and more and more and more. And you think about the pace of our industry, it's mind-boggling, right? Trying to keep up. How much does that play into that culture of make a decision, try it, because the market's moving and we got to keep up?
It is. The customers are pushing, of course, and they want to have solutions and they want to go forward. And that's what we try to do. We try to work with the customers to find those solutions. For instance, if you go to, let's say you go to ESD, and one of the big problems there is taps. They need to replace all the taps in the field if you want to go to 1.8 gigahertz. So we had those discussions, and we had those discussions internally. I still remember we had about 8 guys in the room, the best guys I could find about this. We made a list of about 30 ideas, what we thought that could work. At the end, none of the ideas worked, but the combination.
You went 0 for 30.
Yeah, but the combination of 2 did.
Oh wow!
And now we are in a position that we are prototyping at the moment faceplates that can go in existing backboxes and still drive it to 1.8.
Really?
And they don't have to replace the backboxes. But
Wow,
it took us a while to do it.
Right.
And again, it was a team play. The team come up with ideas. We all start and the list gets shorter and shorter. But at a certain moment, an idea of 2 did work. And we will bring this to market. But this was absolutely 100% driven from the market. Because this was a problem of the market.
Right.
And we tried to solve that. And this is the way how to solve this.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm just amazed at, like, for instance, you go around the show floor, how fast progress has been made on the 10G activities. It is I'm amazed. I'm absolutely I'm thrilled for obvious reasons for the benefit of the industry, but how fast the pace has been from the vendor partners at, solving, there's challenges, right? Whenever you have to touch and regroom a network, Pat Esser, who was the CEO at Cox, always emphasized the point with me: we only touch the network once a decade. Don't do anything that requires us to have to touch it faster or sooner.
Yeah, but that's also at the end, it's a business.
Right.
You have to run a business, and to be able for MSO to compete with the fiber companies and the telcos and things like that, right? You have to have a healthy business plan.
Yep.
And touching the network more than once in a decade is not healthy, because at the end that is a very expensive exercise.
Very expensive.
So to come up with ideas how to prevent that, that's why I say about the one touch idea, that we put in an amplifier that you don't have to touch again, you don't have to go back there, but you also don't need to make a decision now that you need maybe in 5 years time, because all those operators has to make a decision. Oh, what will be my future split? Will I go to 396? Will I go to 492? So they have to make those decisions for the products. But if you don't have that split, then you don't have to make the decision now. It just makes it simpler for the future.
Right.
Because at the end, there's only one thing is for sure: it will change. So you have to come up with a plan.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Whatever decision you make, it will have to be a change.
Yeah.
In the future. Yeah.
Yeah. But you are right. That whole 10 gig that everybody drives. The goal is the 10 gigabit driving. And now, because in our amplifiers, because we don't use the diplexers anymore, we also don't have the crossover area anymore. So we have no guard band, and therefore we can stick this stuff together. We also run a demo here where we stop the upstream on 500 megahertz and we start the downstream on 500 megahertz. We have 0 megahertz spacing, and we can just drive 4K QAM all the way, upstream and downstream. So in fact, if you think about that, if you start from the upstream to the downstream, in total you have 19 gigabit. And how you want to divide that is up to the MSO.
Yeah.
If we say I go for 14 gigabit down, 5 up, or I go for 16 down and 3 up, it's up to him. But he don't have to make the decision now. He just have that
right.
complete plan, and he can just move it via software. He can just from the software to the remote via the modem. Is that tell the modem you can transmit to this frequency or to this frequency, and that's it. And you can mix and match, because also there is always a discussion. Yeah, we have out of band channels. We need to have something in the line for a downstream signal in the middle of the upstream. But that's because you have no filters. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
we can just mix it.
Interesting. Yeah, and the big catchphrase in the industry is optionality.
Yeah,
give me the option to design how I want to operate, because every one of the operators is different.
Yeah.
There's no cookie cutter where everybody's, because they have different networks. Some are rural, some are urban, some are older, some have been newer, all the challenges.
Yeah, in combination with flexibility.
Right.
Because optionality and flexibility are go hand in hand
Right.
in this. Because to give them the flexibility that they can go a different path.
Right.
Because it will change, so they can go left or right or whatever they want to do.
Right.
But they don't have to go back to to spend the millions on all the truck rolls.
Yeah.
That will be a huge saving.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on, you have to hire engineers and people as part of the CTO staff, and I've done, I've had to hire thousands of people in engineering roles and on staffs and that type of thing. When you're hiring or interviewing, is there certain characteristics of people that you look for from the standpoint of not just their technical skills and do they know the industry, but that almost intangible?
Yeah, it's in the past, when I was running the R&D, I come from the Netherlands. And as you know, in the Netherlands, everybody has bikes. Everybody goes bike to the office and so on. And it's all flat, it's close, it's never a far distance. So one of the questions I always ask the guys, okay, if you have a flat tire, would you repair it or will you bring it to the shop? And if you would bring it to the shop, he's not an engineer. I always thought, because there is one thing that an engineer, the big difference for an engineer, what I feel is an engineer wants to understand everything. A sales guy wants to win everything. There's a big difference in mindset. So and that's why I think that's why I was always looking into that area. Now we also have the CTO team, and we, as a company, we grown to this level. And the big part I'm always looking for is, in fact, it's a team. I absolutely believe in team play. I come out of the sport world, and then team is important. And if I, as an example, if I could hire a 9 out of 10 that is non-team player, or an 8 out of 10 that is a team player, I will always go for the 8. Because he will help the others, and the others will help him, and then that 8 becomes easily a 9 by impact by working as a team.
That is so, I think, so important, and I think people overemphasize the technical skill, and they overlook the teamwork, collaboration, cooperation, and I don't know about your experience. My experience, man, you miss on a hire, it can have a pretty negative effect on a team.
Yeah.
If you don't catch it, it could be disastrous.
Absolutely. And what I always say is that if they lack skills, you can send them for training.
Right. You can teach the technical.
Yeah. If they lack attitude, it's nothing to win.
Yeah. There's no way to change someone's how they operate.
No.
Right. Yeah. And I think, one of our watchwords at our organization is we hire to the culture. We'll train the technical skills, but we hire to the culture.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If they're not a culture fit, they won't make it.
No.
And we're pretty, I think overall out of the entire organization, people are really tuned into that on, wanting to make sure you get the right teammates in. So within your scope, in your role, how do you, I think, part of a role of someone in your position is about looking beyond kind of the obvious horizon, right? Because you got R&D, they're building the products, et cetera. The rest of the organization is looking to you and your team to say, okay, what's kind of beyond, right? So how do you drive a team to think beyond, right? Because I think we all tend to kind of our natural tendency is to shrink it down to the known, and we get really nervous if we're trying to predict out.
Yeah, but it's also difficult because for one thing for sure, you're always wrong. Yeah. Whatever you predict, you will be wrong in this decision.
You're giving away my secret because part of my role for the last 20 years has been about predicting the future, and you will be wrong. But if you don't predict,
exactly, and what we try to do as an organization is give people the freedom to do that, because it's, as you said correctly, it's not simple. It's not simple to predict the future.
Yep.
And you know that you're wrong. But to give people the freedom to make decisions and to go for it and then turn around and do it on a different way or whatsoever, that's the place, that's the way how you will make steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the team itself has to grow, because it should not be me, or should not be another guy. It should be a team that is growing and is getting better and better and better.
Right.
And they only will get better. I think somebody said experience is evaluated mistakes. So that's. But we need to make mistakes to learn.
Right. And I think so what kind of planning horizon do you operate in? I mean, like, for instance, at my organization, R&D is kind of in that 0 to 3 year time frame type of thing, and then the innovation work is in that 3 to 5 years, 3 to 8 years. So what about your organization? What's your planning horizons?
Yeah, we have a technology roadmap that goes 10 years out.
Okay. Wow.
So it's exactly as you said. R&D is working on the products that we need in the first 2 to 3 years.
Right.
That's what we need now. In the technology roadmap, we try to look, okay, what technology, where are we going? What direction will it go? We are doing a lot at the moment already on the 3 gig area. So what is going on the 3 gig? What is going on there? And is there a step after 3 gig? We're already making products up to 4 gig just to see, okay, what can we do about it? Can we build extra data space in there and so on? What is the limitation of the coax? How far can we go that route? But in parallel with that, it's not only coax. We also look into what can we do in the fiber area.
Right.
What can we do with, again, flexibility? Can we build an overlay on a coax network to open the door for fiber and the other way around? Can you build in the fiber area a space for as a hybrid on the coax?
Mm-hmm.
So, but also very different is a very different topic. But if you not out of the blue, but power suddenly becomes a huge major player in this whole thing. That power supplies, the power consumption, etc., is just huge. It's not only that the power gets much more expensive, simply don't is enough power in the network to feed all those extra components.
Right.
Nowadays we have Wi-Fi antennas. We have a lot of other stuff inside the network. That's all powered via coax. That was never developed as a power cable. It's an RF cable, and that it works as a power cable is nice, but there is a limitation how much you can do.
Well, and plus just the sustainability piece, right?
Absolutely.
If your strategy is just to continue to grow the power curve, then the sustainability cost of operating that becomes something you can't achieve. And in fact, one of the major players here in the U.S. on Monday announced that they're going to cut in half their network power utilization between now and 2030, which I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Putting that flag out there, and the industry's done phenomenal work on sustainability. But it's interesting that you're thinking about it from the context of, the medium. How do you transport power?
Yeah.
Right.
And also it is also is that a different way? Can we do this different? We try to think outside the box. Is there a different way how we can do this? Right. We have ideas where we work on, and again, they probably will not work, but hopefully there will be something that will stick somewhere, and that we come to this. And that's how we always have developed our products. But this just becomes, it's not only the power bill, because power nowadays is much more expensive. And being a major player in Europe, power in Europe has always been more difficult than in the US. So we play in this area already for many years. Mm-hmm. And because also here we are demonstrating the 1.8 gig amplifier, meeting all the SCTE specs and so on. But we don't have to make the move to the high power mode. We can still we can deliver all the SCTE specs in an amplifier with a 24-volt hybrid. Well, everybody has to make the next step. Is we found a way to change an output part that we can hit those figures in the low power. And that's a big difference, because now you either have a hybrid of 18 watts or you have a hybrid of 11 watts, and you have a lot of them in the network, will make a serious difference. And if you can then achieve those goals with that one, and at the end, if the power consumption is lower, temperature is lower, therefore the lifetime is longer. It all helps you.
Your cost goes down.
It all helps you.
Right. Oh, amazing. That's interesting. And I think part of the challenge for all innovators are facing these days is you think you're solving problem A, but you better be thinking about problem B, C, D, and E, because it isn't just about, okay, what's the best way to get to a 1.8 amplifier, but is there a way for me to do that and solve this problem, and solve this problem, and solve this problem? Because the decisions we make, the technologies we deploy, will have a legacy.
Yeah.
If those things go into a network, they're there for a long time. So what we decide today has long-term ramifications.
No, but that's absolutely true. And that's the whole thing. You're making steps. Yeah, you want to think about B, C, D, etc., and to go forward. And that's why it's important to have a team. Not think about, because if you are alone, you are always focusing on the problem that you see, and you don't see in the helicopter all the rest that comes behind it. And then when you work in a team, your teammates can help you. Oh, but you also have this and you also have that. And then together you can make a plan. A good example is, for instance, the new network that we are designing now. Is we were talking to the operator, and the operator said, yeah, we don't know really how we can do this. Because what we want, we don't think that's feasible. And we said, and instead of that, they told us, oh, I need an amplifier with 46 dB gain, with this and with that. They just said, this is the cable I have. This is the level I want in the home. This is my network. What can you do? And now you can work with your trunk amplifiers, your express line. You can do it with the distribution, with the taps. And you are now balance the whole unit.
Right.
And that's how we can achieve it. So not just focusing on one problem, but focusing on the system. We can achieve much more now. And now we can achieve those high figures. As I said, we have that 19 gigabit of data through the network. And it's raw data, but it's serious speed that we are putting there.
Well, it's interesting. I refer to that as constraint-based innovation. Give me the box. Yeah. Tell me the outside boundary. I got to do within this power, within this, and then I've got the freedom to use those constraints as a forcing function to then drive the ideation process to come up with the ideas to solve it all.
Yeah, so not is somebody said, oh, I have a problem, can you make me this? First try to understand what the problem is.
The whole problem.
Because maybe there is another solution that also they didn't think about.
Right.
And that's why together you can make much more bigger steps.
Wow. As we wrap up the discussion today, I'm going to ask you the one final question, right? Because you've been in this space for quite some time in a very major technology leadership role in the industry. What's your one advice you would give somebody who maybe has an idea but isn't sure what to do with it? What would be that advice as far as how do they move forward?
That's a good one. I think you start. Make the first step. You have to walk a long way, but make the first step. Because if you never make the first step, you will never move on. Mm-hmm. So make the first step, check if it is right, and then make the next one. Because at the end, that's the only way how you will figure out that it works. But just keep on thinking about it and so on. It's that I don't know where to start. Start somewhere. Just do it. And every plan starts with the first step.
Right. Just get started. Don't sit there and try to overanalyze it before you take the first step.
Yeah, if you are, for instance, on the roundabout and you don't know where to go, if you don't go left, right, or straight on, you never know if it is right. If you go left, it's wrong. Then go back. Then you have only 2 choices left instead of 3.
Yeah.
So just make a decision. Just build it on the information you have. Said, I think this is the best chance. Go for it. And if it's wrong, turn around and do the other one. And that's the only way how you will figure out the right answer.
I love that roundabout analogy. I am ripping that off. I remember that. Jan, thanks a lot for coming here on the show today and sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, it was really nice. Thank you.
If you're an innovator in a smaller organization, let's call it less than 250 employees, hopefully today's show gave you some thoughts and some insights that irrespective of your size, you can prioritize innovation. Size does not matter. It is critical. It is important to all organizations. In this case, Technetix has a total of 200 people. Not a big organization, maybe bigger than a lot of companies, but still, I would classify that as on the smaller side of organizations. And yet, they have found a way to prioritize. They have found a way to experiment, take risks, try things, can figure it out. Even when they run face first into failure, keep digging, keep trying. And the fact that an organization that's been around as long as they have, also having a 10-year technology roadmap. Typically, that is pretty rare, thinking about what things will look like that far out into the future. There are clearly some great lessons to learn from Jan and his experience as the CTO of Technetix. Now, as we wrap up today's show, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Time is your most valuable asset. It's what I hopefully remind you every week is don't sit by idly. Take that idea that you're working on, do something with it. Because ideas without execution is a hobby. And innovators are not in the hobby business. We are about making things real, turning it into something that will have real impact. So take that idea you're working on, move it forward, move it towards that execution, moving it forward to making it real. So again, thank you for joining us this week on the show. Stay tuned. We will be back next week with a new episode. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.